Hey everyone, it is time for my March wrap-up. I'm gonna try as hard as I can to make this as quick as possible, but I think based on how much I read 12 things, and there are 2 things I want to talk about that I didn't actually get to, and so I think I'm probably going to make this 2 parts, but I will talk about as many of the things in one video as I possibly can. I think I'll talk about the 2 physical things that I read first. It's kind of a shame that I read 12 things in March, but I only was able to get rid of 2 physical books on my TBR. However, I've been reading this play collection for 3 or 4 years at this point because it has 5 plays in it, and I don't like, if I have a play collection by an author, I don't like reading them all at once because then I feel like it's over. I don't get to savor it as much. So, I've actually been reading this since 2013, 2014, and I finally finished it. So, I am quite proud of that. However, I am sad that I only got rid of 2 books on my TBR, but I will talk about these first. Okay, so first we have Anne of Windy Poplars by Ellen Montgomery. I feel kind of bad because I was supposed to read this with Ange from Beyond the Pages back in January, and she finished like way before I did, and I was expecting to just finish maybe early February, but I kept at first I was kind of afraid to pick it up because I saw her review before I started it, and she gave it 3 stars, and so that was really worrying me because I know that we had both really loved the first 3, so the fact that she gave this one a 3 was really scaring me off of it. But then I finally did start, and I was actually really enjoying what I was listening to, but then it kind of got away from me for a few weeks after that. But then I finally, I started listening to it again, and I just finished listening to it in 2 days, maybe 3. And it's definitely my least favorite of the 4 so far, and that is because we don't get to see Green Gables as much, although we do actually get to see it a bit later in the book, which did kind of make up for the fact that none of it is really, well, okay, a little bit towards the end is set in Green Gables, but most of this is not set in Green Gables, and that kind of broke my heart a little, but it did sort of make up for it at the end. I think my real things that I just missed having Marilla and Diana and Gilbert, as, active parts of Anne's life. They were still active parts of Anne's life, but we just don't see any of that. So, anyway. And also, after the beautiful ending of Anne of the Island, I was hoping for, well, I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not going to say, but anyway. And the other thing that I was iffy about on this was there's one situation between Anne and another character that just, I'm trying to figure out how to explain this. It was the most awkward thing that I've ever read. It was like watching a train wreck that you could not stop, and it was entirely, I think what bothered me so much is it was entirely out of the blue. It wasn't like something that built up over time. There was nothing about this other character. We see the other character through Anne's eyes because she's writing in letters in this, so it's directly from her point of view. So of course we don't see anything about this other character that would lead the audience to believe that she's unhinged or weird or that anything bad is about to happen. So it kind of comes as a great surprise, and then it's like watching a train wreck that you just can't look away from. And I really didn't like that. Like, I just, I really, really didn't like it. But the rest of the book was great. I really loved a lot of the other characters. I loved that Anne was able to fall in love with a place and a town almost as much as Avonlea. Like, it's basically, I love it that it feels like the other books do. Not to the same extent, because as I said, this is just through letters, and it is away from Green Gables. But aside from that, I really love it that Anne still feels like Anne. Like, she's, at this point, she is a proper adult. She's teaching. She has been able to learn so much from all of her kind of mistakes or clumsiness or the things that she felt when she was little, but she still feels like Anne. Like, she's been able to learn, but she's still, it hasn't changed who she is. She hasn't stopped dreaming. She hasn't, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it anymore. I'm just babbling, but I really, really liked this. But it was, again, like my least favorite of the 4 so far. So I would say I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars, I think. Yeah, I think that was right. Okay, next is the plays. So the 2 plays that I had read in this, or I guess 3 technically, that I had read in this before this year were Importance of Being Earnest and An Ideal Husband. I read those several years ago, and they were my 2 favorites. And then I read Woman of No Importance back in December, and really loved that. And so then in the beginning of this year, this month, I actually reread / listened to Importance of Being Earnest, because I rediscovered the web series In Earnest, which is a web series that modernizes Importance of Being Earnest, and I really love that web series. So I decided to reread / listen to the play, and the production that I listened to was amazing. It had Alison Larkin and James Warwick, and he was playing all of the male characters, and she was playing all of the female characters, and it was so cool, because they both changed their voices enough for all their characters that you never, like, you knew a little bit that it was the same people talking, but you never felt like you didn't know which character it was, because there was enough of a voice change by the actor to distinguish the characters, which I really liked. And I also really love James Warwick as an actor. I've seen him mostly in Agatha Christie stuff from the 80s, Partners in Crime, and Why Didn't They Ask Evans? I haven't seen Seven Dials Mystery yet, and I really want to. Alison Larkin, I might have seen in something, but if I have, I don't know what it is. But I thoroughly enjoyed her performance. And did I say these are all by Oscar Wilde? I meant to at the beginning. So yeah, I really love Importance of Being Earnest, and it is tied for second as my favorite Oscar Wilde play with Woman of No Importance. And then I read 2 new ones this month, the 2 that I hadn't read in this before, which were Lady Windermere's Fan and Salome. These were plays that I thoroughly enjoyed, but they were my 2 least favorites of the 5, because with Lady Windermere's Fan, I did enjoy it, and it did feel somewhat like it sort of felt like a combination of Importance of Being Earnest and A Woman of No Importance, in that it had the comedy of Importance of Being Earnest, but the seriousness, but also even taking the seriousness a step further than A Woman of No Importance. And I think it's kind of why I both liked it and didn't like it, because there were parts where I was like, this is not a comedy, this is very strongly a drama. But then there was another part where it was just so funny and light, and it was trying to make the situation comedic, and so I think that's why I just felt so disjointed by it in a way that I did not feel for Woman of No Importance, because Woman of No Importance had the seriousness of Ideal Husband, but the funniness of Importance of Being Earnest, but I felt like it was blended together well enough that I was able to enjoy both sides of it. In Lady Windermere's Fan, there were situations that they were trying to make entertaining and funny that I was just like, oh my gosh, this is awful, this terrible thing is gonna happen. Like, again, it was like a train wreck situation. But I did still very much enjoy it. Sorry, I'm trying not to yawn. I really enjoyed the cast of that, although I can't remember any of the cast members at the moment. And so, yes, I did enjoy that one, but just, again, not as much as the previous three. And then, with Salome, Salome, I think I enjoyed it more than Lady Windermere's Fan, but it's because I knew going in that it was going to be a tragedy and that no part of it should really be very funny. And so I think because I was prepared for that going in, that's why I ended up enjoying it more. I vaguely, I have known the story of Salome and the Dance of the Seven Veils for a while, but I've never actually read the part, like that story from the Bible. So it's interesting because when I was finished with this play, I was wondering if I should have read the Bible story first, because I would love to know how close Wilde's version is to the actual story. But what I do know about Wilde's version is that it was considered, first he wrote it in French, and then it was translated to English by Alfred Lord Douglas, who I always want to call Alfred Lord Tennyson, but it's because he's the Alfred Lord I knew before, first. But anyway, so it was translated into English by Alfred Lord Douglas. The reason it was translated into English by Alfred Lord Douglas is because the French would not put it on. They said, this is too scandalous even for us, so you go take it back home with you. And yeah, so I found that interesting that that it was so scandalous that he had to translate it back into English and put it on the English stage because the French wouldn't stage it. But yeah, it was incredibly tragic and sad and really incredibly well performed. I listened to the LA Theater Works production, and the only one that I specifically remember from that is James Marsters, who is Spike from Buffy. So yeah, that was incredibly intense, but I enjoyed it to the extent that you enjoy a tragedy. But yeah, I thought it was very good. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Wilde plays. I thought it was kind of sad that, I knew that after I read Salome that I had wished very much that I had ended on Woman of No Importance or Importance of Being Earnest, something where, the last one of his plays that I was reading in this collection for the first time was really sad. Like, I wish that I had ended on a higher note than that. But yes, of these, as I said, Ideal Husband is still my favorite. It is hands down my favorite non-Shakespeare play. I don't think that's ever going to change. And it's followed very closely by Importance of Being Earnest and Woman of No Importance, that are tied for second. And then Salome, and then Lady Windermere's Fan, I think. I may have to rethink the order of those last two, but anyway. Okay, so I've now talked enough that I don't know if this will upload. So I'm sorry that I rambled on so long about these, but I did enjoy all of them. Stay tuned for part 2. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.